I'll introduce our next speaker, Jan, Miss Jan Bingley. So Miss Jan Bingley is the IP and licensing general manager of Sarah Operations. Jan has more than 17 years experience in financial sector, including 11 years at the Sydney Futures Exchange, where she managed research and business analysis for market and product design projects, including a carbon credit market. Before joining Sarah, Jan was active in facilitating funding in Australia for technologies promoting green energy and coupling those projects with secure carbon credits. Jan has been a board member of a number of Sarah startup companies and is currently a board member of Commercialization Australia and on the executive committee of Knowledge Commercialization Australia. Let's welcome Jan to give the talk.
All right, they're loading up some slides for me, but while they're doing that, I'll tell you just a little bit, just to touch on that. I spent a long time at the Sydney Futures Exchange. I actually started out as a futures trader, which was really good fun. That's a real pointy end of financial instruments and financial markets. And then I went into the exchange itself to help the exchange design financial products. And this is, thank you, and this is back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and we could see an emerging opportunity around carbon trading. And we designed, and for a while, Sydney Futures Exchange was leading the world in developing a carbon trading market. And for all sorts of reasons, primarily, you'll remember back then, George W. Bush was elected over Al Gore, and the regulatory regime around carbon trading really started going that way as opposed to that way. And from there, we then moved into venture funding some green energy technologies. So I've been involved, I've not started up a company myself, but I've been involved in various roles along the way with a number of startup companies. And I joined CSIRO in 2002 as part of a drive by CSIRO to get actually serious about commercialising its inventions. I always say that in CSIRO's case, and this actually was applied to most research organisations around the world, up until around about the mid-1990s, commercialisation was done to CSIRO and not for CSIRO. So by that I mean good inventions really walked out our door, which was fine, that's how it worked back then, and other people commercialised them and in many cases did very well out of them. Since the mid-1990s, as organisations such as CSIRO have defined multiple revenue sources, we've now realised the value of our IP and the appropriateness of organisations like ours in terms of being proactive around commercialisation and seeking appropriate commercial returns. And obviously the commercial returns that CSIRO does gets reinvested back into science, so it's all a good news story. All right, so I'm not going to talk, we're not on that big screen there. That's all right, we've got the beautiful side screens, that's all right. As long as I can see them, that's the main thing. So I'm not going to talk about CSIRO a lot because I'm assuming you guys know CSIRO pretty well. What I really want to get to is, I guess, my tips around successful commercialisation. But just to recap, so CSIRO, we do science for a purpose. So we're different in the Australian innovation sector. We absolutely do our research with the intent of ensuring that it is adopted. Now that can be adopted in many different ways. It could be adopted in a public good sense, or it could be adopted by an industry partner and be commercialised and people make money from it. Both of those methods are appropriate means of ensuring positive impact for Australia. And obviously what I'm going to focus on today is more the commercial side of CSIRO. And some of you may not realise that that CSIRO has quite a large commercial side of it. We are about engaging with industry, and I'll give you some stats in a minute about that. What we do, so this is our operating model. We've organised ourselves under 5 science groups. CSIRO has 6,500 employees. Of that, I think around close to 4,000 are researchers. So we're pretty large, we're certainly large in the Australian context. We're $1 billion a year organisation, and around about 60 to 65% of that funding comes from the federal government, and the rest we need to raise from other sources. So we do lots of collaborations, and some of it, of course, comes back through commercialisation. You can see there from that slide that there's, just about name every kind of science domain, and we pretty much do it. A couple of exceptions would be nuclear, so we don't do nuclear research, mainly because that is done by a sister organisation, ANSTO. We also don't do a lot in defence either, because again that's done by another sister organisation, DSTO. But otherwise, you name it, we do it. And we've been doing it since 1926, so we've been doing it for a long time. Our track record, hopefully you guys know of many of these. This is, I guess, what we would call our top 10 inventions, and some of them, such as AeroGuard, go back to, I think, the 1950s. So some of them go back a long, long way. So the AeroGuard one in particular falls into the category of wonderful IP invented by some wonderful CSIRO scientists, but it was literally walked out the door, and AeroGuard and Mortine and all those people got rich from it. Others are more recent, so I'm sure you're aware that a team of scientists out of our astronomy area invented really the means to make wireless LAN actually work and work fast. So far CSIRO's earned just over $400 million in licensing income from that one. You may also well know the story that in order to achieve that, we had to do something we haven't had to do in the past, which was actually litigate to ensure that those organisations that were using that invention, that patented technology, did see the sense and started paying us a reasonable amount. So that was a challenge for our organisation. I was involved in that, and it was something that, was a big call for an organisation like ours to do. It's no small thing to run a sizable litigation project like that. But ultimately we decided it was the right thing for CSIRO to stand behind our inventions, and it was the right thing to do by Australia. Having said that, lots of people come up to me and say that they think we shouldn't have done it, but anyway, $400 million later, reinvested back into science. We're kind of pleased we have. Okay, I said it before, I'll give you some stats on our focus on industry. So you may not realise that how much engagement that we do with industry, both Australian SMEs, big Australian companies, and also big global companies. So we do have a big global reach, our organisation, and we are very proactive in commercialisation. You'll see there that we've kind of, it's certainly not an exact number, but we've estimated around about 150 plus spin-out companies have come out of CSIRO. And certainly in the time that I've been there, where me and my team work from the inside out of CSIRO to create spin-outs, we've done 29 spin-outs in the last 9 years. So we are very proactive in the spin-out space. Of those 29 spin-outs, 2 of them have gone under. The rest of them are still there. That's a pretty good average. We're pretty proud of that. I would have to say none of them have kicked really, really big goals, but all of them remain in with a really good chance. I'm still involved with some of those spin-outs in various ways, generally as a non-executive director on the board. So it's exciting. These are Australian companies, certainly started in Australia, but they are born global. And we have to always remember that. We've always got to think about the global context behind our opportunities. All right, what I wanted to talk about was, I suppose, after my involvement, and I'm probably going to talk particularly from my perspective of commercialising research out of CSIRO, I'm going to talk about what my top 10 observations around commercialisation are. That's some of the logos of some of the startup companies that have come out of CSIRO. Some of them you may know. Biota, for example, is, I think, Australia. Actually, Biota and Star Pharma are 2 Australian-born biotech companies that are doing very, very well. They're certainly up in the hundreds of millions of dollars market cap, so we're pretty proud of those 2. And there's some others in there too that are doing some good things.